Meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors. It's about 7:02 p.m. We'll start with the salute to the flag, please. All right, thank you. Mrs. Pullen, can you call the roll, please?
Here.
Here. Here.
Whoa. Here?
Here. Mr. Snipes has already broken his brand new microphone.
Definitely having a problem.
You pulled up all the way? There you go.
Now what? Well, I'm not going to touch it.
Yeah, don't touch it. That's right. Okay. All right, so we're going to begin our meeting this evening with the recognition for the winners of our house decorating contest, which we hold every Christmas season. Something the board began a few years ago to recognize those people who kind of go above and beyond to help make the township a little brighter and I guess help make Pico a little richer. But it's a nice way of just thanking them for all the work they do, because obviously a lot of work goes into it, a lot of creativity, a lot of effort goes into making those displays. I know Bill Reese is here, and he's been heading this up for a couple years now, and you have some awards to give out.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Harvey. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I'm happy to say at least we have 4 out of our 5 families that are here. The 5th family is scheduled to come, so maybe they'll be here in the next few minutes. Before I make the presentation, I just want to say a special thank you to the 5 pizza establishments who donated gift certificates for a free pizza. That would be V&S Pizzeria, De Lorenzo's Restaurant, Papa John's Pizza Shop, Adriatic Pizza Shop, and Originals Pizza Shop. So, and also we have some friendly ice cream coupons as well. So just a special thank you to them. They've been and these 5 establishments have been helping us over the last 3 or 4 years. Okay, now for the presentations. Okay. Our fifth place winner goes to Robert Volpuccio and Jessica Rulin of 215 Devon Road, and for 5th place in the Township of Falls Holiday Spirit House Decorating Contest. Our 4th place winner is Chris Byers and Teresa Lelinski at 204 Valley Drive, Morrisville, PA 19067.
You've got your picture behind you, too.
Our 3rd place winner, I do not believe is here, James and Danielle Rousset. They're not here. We will hold that and make sure that they get that, but we can give them a round of applause as well. Our second place winner is Milton Worrell of 257 Elderberry Drive, Levittown, PA. Come on up, Milton.
Thank you.
And our 1st place winner, Joe and Mary Lelinski, and they live at 9 Franklin Street in Fallsington, Pennsylvania. Come on up, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Yes, and we typically what we do is we do for next year. The 5 winners from this year will not be eligible to win for next year, so give other people a chance to get involved and kind of show off their holiday spirit. So again, thank you to Mr. Reese for all the work he puts into that. All right, item number 1 on our agenda this evening is a amended final plan for AE Polysilicon. Mr. Gray?
Yes, as mentioned, this is a amended final plan for AE Polysilicon, tax map parcel number 13-51-1-24. They are located at 150 Roebling Road. The applicant is proposing the installation of 3 trailers. Here tonight, representing the applicant is Mr. Tony DeChico.
Right, Mr. Chico? You can move that wherever you need to move it, Mr. Chico. Feel free to move it wherever you want. Good evening. You just, if you don't mind, Mr. DeChico, just give us an idea. Obviously, the board at some point in the past approved a preliminary and final plan for AE Polysilicon. This is the manufacturer of component parts for solar panels, correct?
It's the manufacturer of the raw material that goes into making the solar cells.
All right, thank you. How is this amended final plan different from the plan earlier? What has changed?
Well, what we have done right now at the point in our development, we were a little bit over on the number of people hired that we thought we'd have at this time, and we're out of office space. So what we're proposing is to bring in a couple of additional trailers so that we can hire more people to help us with our development.
Okay. All right, and is it your intention for the trailers to be more permanent or temporary?
Well, the trailers right now, because we had to go through land development, gives us the opportunity to leave them there permanently. But right now, we're not sure what will happen with those trailers when we do phase 2.
Okay. All right. I'll turn to board members for comments or questions, and then I'll go to Mr. Sullivan to see if he has any comments or questions. Mr. Galloway, any comments or questions?
Not at this time.
Mr. Snipes?
You said did you have any idea how many more people you were looking to hire so that you need this additional space?
Yeah, right now we're at 100. At the end of 2011, we were at 103, and we have opportunities for as many as a dozen more people.
Well, I think it's wonderful news that hopefully you'll be doing some hiring locally would be wonderful. It's great to see the business being successful, and I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
No, it's pretty straightforward. I don't.
Mr. Rocco?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Sullivan, your thoughts on this amended final plan?
One of the requirements to be here tonight for the amended final plan was that AE Polysilicon did some work on the punch list that's been outstanding for a while. And I'm happy to report they've done a lot of work, and they're now in a position for approval of this amended final plan.
Okay. All right. And just, I guess, for clarification, you referenced to phase 2. The phase 2 basically would be a duplication of what you already have built on another part of the property, so basically doubling the size of the facility?
No, phase 2, the way phase 2 is planned would be quadrupling the size.
Oh, okay.
So we would take our current capacity and increase it threefold to give us 4 times the capacity that phase 1 will give us.
Oh, okay. I'm glad I was wrong in that direction. And is there a timeline for that, or for that expansion yet, or is that a plan for further down the line?
We haven't put a timeline together just yet. The polysilicon market right now is a little bit slow, so we're working on developing the technology that we have right now, and we'll put our plan together when the time is right.
Okay. All right. Any public comment needed? I see no hands. Okay. So board members have a resolution in front of them. Would be 2012-3.
Mr. Chairman, if I can.
Yes.
We have Mr. Sullivan's review letter dated January the 6th, 2012. I was just wondering whether the applicant has complied or plans to comply with all the comments contained in the January 6th letter.
I don't have a copy of that letter, but
Would you like this one, Mr. Chico?
Yes, we can comply with this.
Okay. All right.
So will comply, I'm satisfied.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Gallagher. All right, well, so we're looking at Resolution 12-03, an amended final plan for AE polysilicon. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2012-3.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, second item on our agenda is a CNG fueling station at 451 Tyburn Road, tax map parcel 13-2884. And this is, I believe, a request for preliminary and final. See Mr. Hecker is here. Mr. Gray, anything I missed?
Yes, the applicant is proposing installation of compressed natural gas fueling facility on a portion of the existing property.
Okay, thank you. So it's an existing business looking to add a compressed natural gas fueling station. And this is on basically the corner, the intersection of Tyburn Road and Cedar Lane. Okay. Board members and staff have gotten a color illustration of the plot and the plans. Mr. Hecker, nice to see you again.
Thank you, Mr. Harvey. Always a pleasure to see you as well. Members of the board, good evening. I'm happy to be here tonight, Tom Hecker, on behalf of the applicant, to present to you this compressed natural gas fueling facility. Up until my involvement with this plan about 5 or 6 months ago, I had no idea what this was or that it was out there, but this is the direction that we seem to be going. It's a clean, efficient way of providing fuel for transportation. And in this particular case, Bucks County has what's called Bucks County Transport Services, and you have probably seen those small buses that supply transportation services to senior citizens, to doctor's appointments, nursing homes, shopping trips, that kind of thing. Those buses actually operate on compressed natural gas, and we're happy to tell you that the driving force behind this application is to provide a permanent location here in Falls Township for the fueling of those buses, and that's really what this process has been all about. Here with me tonight is Monica Altreras from Clean Energy. We'll tell you a little bit about who Clean Energy is and what they do. We'll get into the plan, and then we can go quickly through the resolution. Okay, Monica?
Good evening. Thank you for having me. My name is Monica Ultreras. I represent a company called Clean Energy. Clean Energy is the leading provider of natural gas for transportation in North America. We've been in operation since 1997. T. Boone Pickens is our founder, and he's currently located in Dallas, Texas. Clean Energy designs, builds, operates, maintains natural gas fueling stations, which offers the latest in convenience, technology, and safety. Compared to diesel and gasoline, natural gas is cheaper, cleaner, and greener. It's sourced domestically, and we have supplies on site for approximately 120 years, is what our analysis have shown us. Clean Energy is committed to delivering the benefits of natural gas to fleet operators across America, at the same time improving our environmental needs and really keeping some of our needs for fuel on land rather than depending on foreign countries. Part of our application is obviously associated with compressed natural gas, and so I want to go a little bit into what the details of compressed natural gas is, and then I'll allow our engineer to get into the scope of work of this particular application. Natural gas is sourced from our local utility providers, and it's the same gas that most of us utilize from cooking at the stove top, or even barbecuing on one of those fancy islands, or the heater. It is, again, 98% produced on North America's soils, so the need for dependent on foreign oil is reduced significantly. Compressing the gas increases the energy density, which allows the gas to be stored in the vehicle. I'm going to get into how the CNG moves through the tapping into the utility-provided infrastructure. The utility gas line is typically in the vicinity of the project, and the natural gas is primarily in a vapor form. So the very first major equipment component that will be hit is our dryer. And the dryer acts as a filtration system, so it'll take out any debris or moistures, and it'll get it to the temperature that it needs to be at to move to the next major equipment component, which is our compressors. The natural gas is compressed to about 3,600 psi, and it goes through a pretty intense system that is monitored through our PLC program. It's a program logic control system, which is monitored by our 24-hour response system, just to assure that all of the necessary valves are operating at what it is designed to. In the event there is a leak, it's not likely, but in the event there is a methane detection systems that will detect the leak and will contact the authorities accordingly. It'll always contact the emergency response team first. It'll contact the fire department, so 911, fire department, and then our operations department, and in that order. We do have a 24-hour response plan that is in play, and will be submitted to the building departments and the fire departments once we get to that component of our application. From the compressor, it then goes to our storage vessels, and typically they're stored, in 1 to 3 storage vessels, which are approximately, anywhere from 3 to 5 feet tall. They're screened by an equipment closure wall, so it's not anything visible that will be seen. But the high-grade steel is rated to hold about 55 psi. So this is where the fuel will store until a user comes and swipes their card for utilization for dispensing purposes. So that's just overall on clean energy, what our business objectives are, what CNG is, and how it basically operates. I'd like to transfer over to Kevin, whom is our engineer, who will get into our scope of work and more site specifics, unless there's any questions for me.
Any questions? Well, I think we have questions now. You want to hold till the end, maybe?
Okay.
Hold till the end? Okay.
Great, thank you.
As Monica mentioned, thank you. My name is Kevin Primer. I'm representing the engineer of record for this project and my client, Clean Energy. Just a brief overview of the site we have here. It's fairly basic. As Monica mentioned, there's really 2 components to it. There's the fueling canopy, which with the vehicles that fuel would pull up to, and typical to a gas station from either side. We have 2 fueling islands underneath a single canopy. The vehicle would pull up, fuel, and then leave. The gas is compressed and dried, and all the other components that Monica described in the equipment storage area, which is located behind a fence in this case. You see right here in that location, which is of close proximity to the fueling islands, but not necessarily needs to be right next to it. So in this case, it's located just south of it. Our site is accessed via 2 points. One existing access drive on Tyburn Road, which is a DOT State Road 2020. And the other is a existing gravel road connection to Cedar Lane. So those 2 connection points are existing, and we do propose slight modifications to the access point on Cedar Lane, altering it from a gravel access point to a paved road, per the Falls Township guidelines, as much as we could. Of course, the waivers we'll get into later, a few minor waivers associated with that based on the limitations of the existing surrounding areas. And as far as the overall site is 2.8 acres, of which it's currently being used as a commercial purpose for patch management. And they park their vehicles and they access the lot, and that will not change. It'll still be a patch management facility. They will still park their vehicles within the fenced location you see in the southern end of the southern end of the site, inside the fenced area, and the parking will not be impacted for that existing use, and the construction will be done in such a manner that it will remain open during construction of the proposed improvements. The proposed improvements really amount to replacing existing gravel drive and existing gravel parkway with pavement is really what it amounts to. As you can see from the handout I provided, the amount of green space is really not impacted in this site at all. We went from, I think, 46% green space to 45% green space. Really, we're replacing the existing gravel with pavement, and that's kind of what it amounts to. The only earth disturbance activity that I would really consider a large impact would be us excavating the detention pond in the southwest corner, the southeast corner of the lot in order to meet the Falls Township stormwater requirements, as we will be technically adding impervious area in the substitution of a gravel to a pavement. So we are impacting slightly the stormwater. So to mitigate that, we are proposing the additional stormwater detention facility in the southeast corner of the lot. We are improving the landscaping as shown. The orange trees shown in your colored handout there are all new trees we're proposing per the Falls Township Code for the street trees. And the minor replacement relocation of trees along Cedar Lane is simply for safety issues with the site triangles. The existing condition out there on that gravel road is currently a little unsafe, so we're going to remove some of the existing, I guess it's a dense hedge. I would hesitate to call them trees, they're more of a hedge, but we're going to replace them with more manageable trees and set them back from the right-of-way as such to improve the site triangles and to improve safety. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. The site is located in a heavy industrial area. Everything around it is industrial, and I think it maintains the site characteristics of the surrounding area and poses no to little impact on the traveling public as well as the surrounding neighbors and abutters.
We started the process by going to the Falls Township Zoning Hearing Board for certain items of relief that were necessary and were granted. That relief is spelled out in the engineer's review letter as well as the resolution that was prepared. I'm happy to tell you that the proposed resolution, we've gone through it. The items that are open in that resolution are all will comply items. There are some waivers that are required in connection with this project, which have been spelled out in the January 6th letter, January 6, 2000, and should be 2012. Looks like Greenberg Farrow didn't get used to the new calendar, 2012, which spells out the waiver relief, which I hopefully have been provided to you. Evan is prepared to go through those waivers and explain those to you. And they are also referenced in the resolution. Would you like us to do that, Mr. Harvey?
Yeah, please. I know they're on page 7 of our resolution, and I'm looking at just a copy here. Just if you don't mind, some of them are relatively self-explanatory, and I think you addressed one of them already. But
Kevin, if you will, we'll take them item by item. 19136D, dealing with the radius of the driveway. If you could explain to the board what that condition is and why we're requesting.
Sure. Unfortunately, there's an existing overhead utility line running along Cedar Lane, and they have poles. And one of the poles is impacting the northern radius of Cedar Lane. You can see it right here on your plan.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, the location of the pole mandates that we start the radius at 25 per the code, and then unfortunately we have to turn it.
you're going to have to, I'm sorry, you're going to have to use microphone. If you're that's right.
We turn the radius at a 10-foot radius once it reaches the pole and turns it around and meets our existing. So the pole is creating a hardship for us to create a true 25-foot radius. Discussions with the township traffic engineer has concurred that it's actually it's safe. We've also proven with our truck turning templates that we can successfully pass the design vehicle, which is a WB50 truck, which is in excess of the 45-foot truck that the fire marshal requires for the township. So we do pass a 50-foot truck, can able to successfully access that location.
The next item referenced in your letter is section 19139G, dealing with the requirement for sidewalks. We're not proposing any sidewalks, is that correct?
That is correct. The surrounding area, the abutters, there is no existing sidewalks anywhere in the area, so the sidewalks would therefore be isolated. Also, the proposed use being a natural gas fueling station for vehicles does not contribute to a demand for pedestrian access.
The next item, very similar, relates to the requirement for curbs. We're not showing any new curbing in connection with this along the street frontage. Is that correct?
That is correct. The abutters have, curbing is not existing on Tyburn or Cedar, and thus creating it would cause more of a detriment than a positive, as there is no underground stormwater conveyance system for which the curb gutter system to connect to. So it would, in effect, be more of a detriment than a positive.
The next item deals with the requirement under 19178C2 for topographic data for features within 200 feet of the property, correct?
That is correct. We feel that we show sufficient information within the adjacent areas to graphically show and prove that we have no detrimental impact to the surrounding areas, and we respectfully request a waiver from the requirement to do the 200 feet.
Next item, 18712L, deals with the requirement relating to stormwater management with regard to a minimum of 1 foot of freeboard above the maximum pool elevation. I have no idea what that means. Perhaps you can explain that and say why we're not doing it.
The site topography is exceptionally level. In these slopes, especially in the area of the detention basin, range from 0 to 1%. Unfortunately, there is not enough relief for us to provide additional elevation between the highest stormwater elevation due to the 100-year storm event and the top of berm. We feel that we have provided 6 inches, which is half that required, and that we feel that based on our analysis and our hydraulic analysis that we still meet all safety requirements necessary, and we fulfill to the best of our ability on this site, given the restraints of the existing topography, the best of our ability to meet that requirement and its intent.
Next item deals also with stormwater management, the requirement under 18712K to provide the concrete line emergency spillway with a minimum 2 feet of depth.
We have, as we've stated before, the site is exceptionally level. Our berm is only 0 to 1 feet in height, so it would be impossible for us to provide one of 2 foot height. We have done hydraulic analysis of our outfall. We do have a concrete outfall structure, if you notice, in the southeast corner, and we have analyzed the capacity, and it does successfully pass the 100-year storm event, which is the requirement in the code. However, it is not 2 feet in depth. It's only 6 inches in depth, but it still meets the intent of the code.
The last item was also referenced in the resolution under section 18712I that requires all outlet pipes through basin berms to be reinforced with concrete pipes having O-ring joints. What is that requirement, and why are we not meeting that requirement?
That requirement is typically based on larger pipe diameters. Unfortunately, our outfall discharge is only 8 inches in diameter. Concrete pipe is usually 12 inches and larger, so it's typical and common practice to have smaller diameter pipes be PVC, either SGR 35 or 40. So that's why we have neglected to use concrete pipe in this case. We've substituted with PVC.
So the larger diameter pipe isn't needed, and as a result, you've asked to substitute it with the PVC.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's the extent of the waivers that we've requested. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And as referenced, all the other items in the report are will comply items, including any outside agency approvals. We've already received the approval from the Bucks County Conservation District with regard to the adequacy of the soil erosion sedimentation control plan, and we've received an exemption letter from DEP with regard to any extension of sewer services. So that's really what we're proposing, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. All right, thank you. We'll go to comments and questions from board members. Mr. Galloway?
This facility is just for fleet use, so all we're going to see is who's actually, besides the county, who actually is it intended for use?
Is it?
This is a public station. The anchor tenant, we always build a station, you know, for a tenant, is anticipated to be the vehicles that was referenced earlier today. There's about 30 vehicles that we anticipate to utilize the site. Again, it is a public station, so if a taxi in the vicinity wants to utilize the system, they will be able to. There's not a lot of natural gas vehicles on the street. What we anticipate to utilize the system is the 30 vehicles, and they don't fuel every single day. So we anticipate about 15 fuel trips on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, thank you. Did you, in your description of how the gas actually arrives on the site, it's just coming through existing gas pipelines arriving on the site, you're compressing it there, and then fueling vehicles that come in?
Yes, sir.
Is that a general description?
Yes, sir. Yes, that is exactly, you've nailed it right on the head. There's existing infrastructure that is in place that has laterals that would service a home or a commercial facility. This is the same exact intent. This infrastructure is in place. There will be a lateral that is tapped into and services our system. It goes through the dryer, it's compressed, it's stored until the user swipes their card.
On the issue of safety, and there might be some questions for the township, our township personnel as well, what are the kinds of emergency situations that have to be thought of in terms of compressed natural gas? What typically might be, I'm not saying it's going to happen, obviously,
Right.
but what might be some of the emergency conditions? Yeah, exactly. Mr. Harvey's saying from a regular gas station that we would be going to, what other kinds of emergency protections would be needed?
Well, the fire department is, through the building permit process, we are going to be interfacing with the specific disciplines associated with our plan. So the building aspect will be dealing with our structural components, which isn't much. As Kevin mentioned, there's the equipment pad, the canopy. We'll be dealing with the electrical discipline for those obvious reasons. All we need is gas and power to service our system. We are the primary and the lead authority having jurisdiction over our projects typically is the fire department. And the fire department is assuring that we are building, designing, and operating per national fire codes. They are permitting the use, the above-ground tanks, and also the monitoring of the system. Through this process, and prior to us receiving a final to operate, there's a training program that goes on from our operations team to any emergency response team, and usually the fire department is the one who spearheads and that sends out any invitations to whomever would like to attend. It's no different than any other gas station. There will be emergency shutdown devices on the fueling dispenser, also in the compound area, in the event there is an incident on site that, first off, our program logic control system will definitely trigger that. But if there's something on site that needs, a manual button to be pushed, there's obviously those options on site as well. Typically, the types of alarms that we receive is just making sure that the storage vessels are holding the appropriate levels. So it's more of a monitoring of our gauges and our check valves.
When you said you had a tenant, do you have an arrangement? This is not something where the buses you mentioned are showing up and they're paying you. There's already a prearranged
That's right.
contract, let's say. Is that how it operates?
Yes, we'd like to hold the position, build it, and they will come. But that's a bit much. So what we do is negotiate with those return to base fleet operators. Our primary business in the past has really been focused on refuse, street sweepers, taxis, those types of vehicles that would benefit from natural gas. Their user who is continuously on the road and could benefit from, the cost, and also its less impact on a maintenance basis on a vehicle.
And a regular person who pulls in off the street is going to have some form of payment. They obviously don't have a tenant's contract, so.
That's right. So if in the event of, obviously the user will have to have a natural gas vehicle, okay? I couldn't pull up with my Cadillac and fuel this unless, it was configured to do so. However, if the Honda or, the taxi vehicle that is powered by means of natural gas, what will happen is they will be issued either a clean energy card. This particular case, there will be the Visa or the MasterCard. However, when they swipe their card, the system will recognize the user. And if it does not recognize the user, it'll require that user to go through the training program. And it's an interactive program that the user will have to complete in order to fuel.
Probably a lot of us that don't know much about compressed natural gas, just the words compressed natural gas sounds explosive in a way. But how much more explosive is it or dangerous is it than gasoline? And so I'm wondering from Mr. Gray, are we in some kind of training with our fire personnel? And I think Mr. DiPolito just walked in, to be prepared for this. Maybe we already have the training. I don't know if other municipalities close by have already been through training and are prepared for this. I guess it's just something new, but perhaps it's no more dangerous than any other gas station.
That's right, and we've already contacted the fire department. They have no major objections to our application. Plan check comments were not provided because it's apparently not their practice to provide comments at this status of our application. Once we submit to the building department, then they said that they would provide feedback at that point, but we have communicated with the fire department.
And the township does have a letter from the fire marshal stating that he has no comments at this time, and then, as you're saying, when the building and construction plans are submitted, they'll be reviewed for all compliance with fire and safety issues.
Yes, sir.
So, okay.
I have other questions, but I don't want to hog the time, so I'm happy to have somebody else.
Mr. Dents?
Mine are for Mr. Sullivan at this point. The stormwater management issues, you're comfortable with all those?
Well, yes, sir. As far as the spillway goes and the freeboard, yes. We discussed those at length, and we feel that the detention basin is rather small, and it's in a very tight area, so the 6 inches of freeboard and the depth of the spillway are fine. The waiver for 18712I is not listed in your waiver letter. It's not in the resolution. I need to ask you, when you say PVC pipe, did you say SDR 135?
Yeah, I have it on page 7, on the very, very bottom of
Yeah.
page 7 of the resolution, Mr. Sullivan.
Okay.
I do have it listed.
I don't see it. Oh, I do.
That's,
But you're right, it's not on the January 6th letter.
it wasn't listed as a waiver in our information.
Yeah, it was not listed in a waiver, it was picked up subsequently, and it was incorporated into the resolution.
Would you object to use DR 18 for that? And you can use glue joints? All right. In that case, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Okay, the first item, the turning radius, the traffic engineer actually preferred the tight radius, he said. And the second one, the waiver for sidewalks. I'm fine with that, I guess. That's all I have for now.
Okay. Mr. Rocco?
Just so I'm clear, this is an unmanned self-serve site?
That's correct.
And where's the nearest natural gas station at now located?
My understanding, the county's going to New Jersey, Pennsauken, New Jersey, for fueling purposes. I don't know of anyone else that's currently operating one in the county, but I could be wrong, because...
Okay, thank you.
Maybe some trees.
The questions I had actually have been asked. Mr. Snipes, I don't know if you had anything else that was pressing you wanted to find out about.
Yes, I think Mr. Sullivan already answered my questions about, from what he can tell in terms of the stormwater management, we're in good shape. Another question I had was the natural gas, who do you buy it from? Who's the source company that
It'll be
you buy it
PICO, correct? Yes. It'll be PICO.
Cool. It brought up in my mind the controversy around hydrofracking, or fracking as it's being called, and the controversy between municipalities and the hydrofracking industry. Now, I know it's not an issue in Falls because that's an issue of extraction rather than the sale and use of it, but I had a general question whether the gas is coming from areas from hydrofracking suppliers, but you may not even know that.
Yeah, we really don't. I mean, PICO is the contact. PICO has indicated that they can service and provide the gas needs that are here, and I'm not sure where PICO is getting it from.
Right. Okay, that's all I had.
Okay. Any public comment needed? See one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Mr. Dell?
Yeah, one of my questions is, why is the tank not buried? Why is it above ground? That's one of my questions. The other question is, they're building this entire facility to service 30 vehicles. Is that my understanding?
No, they hope it'll attract more.
No, I understand they hope for
the-
future customers, but right now at this current time, they're building it to service 30 vehicles.
Correct.
They're chartered.
I just want to make sure I heard that. I wasn't sure if that was right or not. Okay. Secondly, being unmanned, is there going to be some sort of emergency lever to pull in case
Yeah, she
someone
did say
smells
that.
gas, or there's I mean, I know there's going to be detectors and whatnot, but when someone is filling, I've seen people driving down the road with a gas pump sticking out of their car, and they didn't even know, they're dragging the nozzle and hose and half the gas tank down the road with them. So I didn't know if there's going to be, what are the safety conditions as far as cutting off the system? Because I'm assuming it's fed just like your house. So they're taking the Pico gas right out of the main and compressing it themselves. But where is the is there a quick shut off like they have at the gas stations? Where
Someone
there's a
mentioned
panic
that there
button?
was the emergency shut-off buttons there.
They're there. Okay.
That's what they said, yes.
But as far as someone maybe hitting the above ground tank, I'm assuming there'd be bollards around it. But is there a disadvantage to burying a tank just below the surface?
Okay, let's find out, I guess, from our professionals here.
Excellent questions. If you take a look over here at the site plan, and maybe I could move
Yeah,
this.
you can
if
take
you're
that,
okay. Okay, and there's quite a bit, so I'm going to try and hit them all. Okay, so we're going to cover above ground tanks. We're going to cover breakaways, and that's when a fueler is fueling and potentially drive away. It happens, and also the vehicles that we anticipate to use. Okay, so let's hit the vehicles first. 30 intended vehicles initially. If we can get the community to buy into the system, we would love for additional users to participate and fuel at this facility. There is a capacity, so we will have to understand. We'll be monitoring what type of volume is utilized on this project, but for the next 3 to 5 years, you're going to see these same 30 vehicles fueling on site. The above ground tanks, typically it's industry standard to have these above ground tanks for monitoring purposes. They're not very high. Now we do liquefied natural gas stations, and that's a different component, and I don't even want to go there on that one. But these ones here they're screened by this equipment wall. You're right, there's going to be bollards that are protecting that. Our system is equipment driven. So all of the components, this is the dryer that I was referring to, and that's the first major equipment that'll hit. This is the compressor, and these are the storage bollards, bottles that you were inquiring on. So it is protected by the screen wall, the fencing, the landscape. You'll see that there's quite a distance between actually the street here. This wall is chain link fence, I believe, and there is also CMU. Is there some CMU or no? It's a screen chain link fence, but it's protected with bollards, and that's a fire department requirement. So I believe I hit the above ground tanks, the breakaways. Yeah. Okay, so in the event there is a fueler that is fueling here and they're distracted for one reason or another, and they drive away. The hose has a device called a breakaway. It's a little bit different because you can probably take the whole line, the hose and everything. If you drive away, what you're going to take with you is the dispenser, because along the hose, the middle of it, there's a breakaway. And so it disconnects. When that takes place, then it goes into the emergency shutdown system, which everything just ceases. Another question, and I know that the board answered, there is emergency shutdown devices that can manually be pushed as well in the event somebody saw anything. No, this facility will not be manned. However, it is an operation. It's an existing operation. There's people on site that will be, conducting business as usual. But there is emergency shutdown devices and/or buttons, red, big. And there's also signs indicating what it is. Okay. And you push it here, and then there's also another one in the dispensing area.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public comment or questions? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Question I had that was just raised, or it just sort of pops in my head. We know it's an unmanned station, and that was sort of clarified. But in terms of I guess inspections and maintenance, is there some kind of staffing? Obviously it's on a sort of a completely different facility. I mean, the operation that's on that property right now doesn't really have anything to do with compressed natural gas. But were somebody trained at that facility, or is there some kind of central area where, weekly, daily, monthly, someone's going to come out and inspect everything and then sort of?
The answer is yes. Monica, do you want to explain the maintenance?
We do have maintenance technicians, and warranting the need, we will hire individual. We already have one that is maintaining the South Jersey sites, and so we'll probably have another, not probably, we will have a maintenance technician that will visit the site on a weekly basis. And just depending on what the needs are of that particular site. But it will go through its routine maintenance reviews, checklist. I mean, they've got their own checklist that they need to maintain and ensure that we are compliant with building plans, fire departments, codes. So it is maintained on a weekly basis.
Okay. Okay, those are all the questions I had. Anybody else? Any follow-up questions?
Just want to make a quick comment. The tank and the equipment isn't where the fueling station is.
No,
The fueling station is completely separate
that's right.
from where the actual tank and equipment is.
That's correct.
Okay.
No? Any more, Mr. Sullivan, any comments or questions from you?
Not at this time, thank you.
Ms. Gallagher?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I believe you had indicated you reviewed the September 29th letter from the fire marshal, the January 11th letter from Traffic Planning and Design, and the January 5th letter from T&M Associates, Mr. Sullivan. Right. And other than the waivers that were indicated, including the 18712I, which Mr. Sullivan discussed earlier, everything in these letters is a will comply?
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, we've had board comments and questions and public comment, as well as our professionals. This is a resolution granting preliminary and final development for the fueling station at 451 Tyburn Road. It would be resolution 12-04.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion by the board?
I'll make a motion to approve resolution number 2012-04.
A second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine.
For some reason, I couldn't find the resolution on all my papers.
All right, item 3 on our agenda is consider proposal from Ray Litwin for 2012 maintenance contract. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the township received a letter dated January 9th, 2012, from Ray Litwin's Heating and Air Conditioning concerning the annual maintenance contract for 2012. He is proposing for the year a fee of $4,950. This is an increase over the prior year of $200. The board is asked to consider this proposal at this time.
Okay. And Mr. Gray, how long have we had Ray Litwin's service here at the
I
township?
believe they started in 2010. This will be their third year.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members?
No, I guess everybody's happy with the service they provide.
Yeah, they do. When we call them up, they respond and everything works.
Okay, that's all.
That's all we can ask, right? Okay, any public comment needed? All right, so we're looking at $4,950?
Yes.
Okay. Yearly contract from amount of $4,950 to Ray Litwin Heating and Air Conditioning for the township. Is there a motion?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay, item 4 on our agenda is considered a fee schedule, 2012 fee schedule for code, fire, and park and recreation. For pretty much as long as I've been here, the fee schedules for these different operations have always kind of run differently. Sometimes we, look to increase some of the fees for some of the fire inspections and permits, and other times we look at building permits, and other times we look at park and rec fees, and the idea behind this is to really sort of merge all these together, doing them all at once, and then yearly taking a look at them and seeing, if they're fine the way they are, we keep them the way they are. If we need to increase something, we need to increase something. The township essentially, does not try to function like a business. It's not about necessarily making money. It's about covering costs. And the employees we have here, whether they are park and rec or fire marshal or code enforcement, zoning officers, environmental inspection, they all obviously have salaries and benefits and costs that are involved with their work, and those costs have to be covered. The supervisors have before them a resolution establishing the fees, a rather thick document that has a list of fees, about 22 pages, covering all these departments, fire, code, and park and rec, and also an analysis by Ms. Gallagher, taking a look at some comparisons of neighboring townships and municipalities and where we fall with these new fees. And so I'll turn to board members first, or Mr. Graham, sorry, anything that you wanted to put in?
Yes, this comprehensive fee schedule is before the board tonight for review. Tonight, we do have available for any questions from the board, Mr. Rich DiPolito, Fire Marshal, Mr. Tom Bennett, Zoning Officer, and Mr. Bill Reese, Park and Rec Director.
Okay. Are board members interested in hearing from the three department heads first? No? That's all right, if gentlemen, if you wouldn't mind, just give us an idea of some of the logic, I guess, behind some of the fees and where we stand and some of the maybe difficulties you see with the current fees that we have.
Okay. Basically, what we're looking at here, and most of our fees haven't really gone up for the last few years. We have various memberships at Pinewood Pool. We have party rentals at night at Pinewood Pool. We have a daily pass. I just brought to the attention of Mr. Gray. I just want to make sure the board's aware. The only thing that I see in all these, and I'll continue in 1 second, with that of any increase would just be the Pinewood Pool daily pass, and it would be an increase of $2 per day. So, and it used to be $4 and $6. Now we're saying $6 and $8. I don't know if the board's aware that that is an increase of $2 per day. But there is no other increases in Parks Recreation. As a matter of fact, if I move on, like the Three Arches rentals, Fallsington Commemorative Park gazebo rental, Township Community Park Pavilion and gazebo rentals, that's all the same. Quaker Penn boat ramp obviously is new, but it'll be the same as it was for 2011. The summer camp program, when we started, this will be our 11th year, I believe we started at $500. So it's only been an increase of $100 over the last 10 years, and I believe it's been at $600 for at least the last 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, the last few pages is all programs that we have throughout the year. We have winter programs, fall, spring, and that just lists you what the cost is per person for all the programs that we offer throughout the year. So if the board's okay with that $2 increase, that would be fine. If not, we can certainly go back and make it $4 and $6. But other than that, there are no other increases for Parks and Recreation.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right. Mr. DiPolito.
The changes that I proposed from the Fire Marshal's office from what I can see, haven't been changed in years, and maybe as many as 10. I'm not sure exactly. I've tried going back in old fee schedules. I know it hasn't been at least 3. The changes I made were trying to bring up some of the fire inspections, kept the square footage the same, size of buildings, etc. Just we raised the rates slightly, trying to cover, because I believe we're losing money as the guys are going out and doing these annual inspections. This isn't a profit-making venture. This is just to try and cover our costs. Same thing with our fire investigation reports. I asked to raise them slightly. I checked around. We were the lowest that I could find in the area on that. Again, just to cover our costs. Other than that, our hotels and motels and apartments, They were convoluted. I tried streamlining them a little better, trying to figure out how long it takes, how many man hours it takes, how many guys it takes, and just trying to cover our costs there. So without going into all the detail of it, that's the sole reason that I propose this.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Bennett?
Okay, most of mine is basically the same. The only, I have a raise in for inspections of sewer laterals and water service for commercial and residential, but it's slightly higher than it was before. I don't believe that's been changed in years neither. So that just brings it in line with other municipalities. And the only other thing was the zoning hearing board application used to be a $100 application fee. And then after approval or denial, you had to pay the advertising fee and the court stenographer fee. So that would be an additional, it would end up being around $300. It was either like $275, $350, somewhere in there. So people, I think it was misleading to people to say it's $100 to apply, and then you had hit in the end with the advertisement. And so we just made it a flat $300 fee straight across the board for residential zoning hearing board appeals.
Okay, all right. Okay, if you gentlemen don't mind just waiting there, board members might have specific comments or questions, or just in general. Mr. Galloway?
Yeah, so that flat $300 fee, we're just being upfront about the costs.
We're being upfront about the cost. A lot of people felt like they would only read the first line. It says on the application, but they'd read the first line and say it's $100. So I'll go for it. And then you hit them with another bill, and then the screaming began.
And
it's upfront. It's honest upfront. It's straightforward.
sounds like a good idea. And I did appreciate the comparative analysis of how we fit in with 4 other townships in our area. Thank you.
My pleasure.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, ditto on the comparison analysis. I think it's helpful. And it looks to me like we're certainly in line, if not cheaper in most cases, than townships around us. I know anytime we increase the fees, people are going to be concerned, but I think Mr. Harvey described it pretty well, that we're not trying to make money. We're trying to cover the costs of what we have to do, and also aware that, you know, we're providing a service to residents of the township. But all of this really is to keep people safe. My wife and I just put in a wood insert in our house. We had the inspection done. It cost us $120. And well, you just add that on to the cost of doing this, which we hope will bring down our heating costs because we're burning wood instead of oil. But it's important that it be done right, so there isn't an accident that could lead to a fire in someone's home and injury or something. So the only other question I have is, obviously wanting to hear from residents of Falls Township. No one's ever going to think that an increase is necessarily fun, but I just have a question. How much, if the board wants to hear more input from residents? We don't have very many people here tonight, but obviously a lot of things haven't changed, a few things have changed, so we're trying to keep it reasonable. That's all I have.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
Mr. Rocco?
Nope, no questions, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, and I, you know, in thinking about this, looking at it, again, I appreciate the work you 3 gentlemen have done. You do every day, but also taking a look at this. I know it wasn't something that was done quickly. In some cases, talk about, you know, weeks and months of just sort of analysis and taking a look. And I know the issue that Mr. Bennett brought up with the zoning fee is one that you brought up, you know, several months ago, I think, looking at it, and I, you know, it makes a lot of sense. But also think about the fact that if we have someone go out, and Mr. Snipes mentioned himself, if we have an inspector who has to go out and take a look at something that's being put in, something that's being done, whether it's at a residence or a business or you know, a small business or a major industry, you know, something like AE Polysilicon, if that employee is out there and they're racking up a lot of hours, a lot of time, they're coming back here, they're doing a lot of work here. There's all kinds of things that happen here in terms of, you know, photocopying and phone calls and emails back and forth and meetings about different things, and all of that is adding up. If that cost for the salaries and benefits and everything else is not being paid by the owner of the property, it's being paid by everybody else in Falls Township. Everybody's sharing that cost, and you question, you know, the fairness there. You know, if you're the one who's getting the improvement, you're the one who's doing the work, then obviously why make everyone else pay for that improvement to your property. Obviously, we want people to improve their property, but, you know, and Mr. Snipes put up a very good point that you were looking at having them do it safely. And obviously, you know, people, you know, the experts that we have here, whether it's in fire or it's in code or something else, you know, they're the ones that really know what to look for. So I appreciate the work you three gentlemen put in, as well as Ms. Gallagher and Mr. Gray put into all this. Comments or questions from the public? See no hands? Okay. All right, so the resolution. What's that?
That's what he said.
They're all dead. They're all dead, though.
They're dead trees.
They're all dead. You stay away from my trees.
Yeah. The resolution we're looking at would establish the fees that we have in this memo as the fees for this current year for 2012. And then again, we can look at this again next year. If the fees stay the same, then we just approve the schedule as is, and we just keep doing that. And that way, and as you heard Mr. DiPolito say, sometimes it's hard to figure out, you know, when were these fees increased, when were they, you know, how long has this fee been at this rate, because it has been very kind of much of a hodgepodge over the years of this one goes up, this one stays the same. Now it's a lot more, I think, it's a lot better system. It's a lot more streamlined and easy to understand. The resolution would be 1205, right?
5.
Okay. All right, so establishing the fees for Code, Fire, and Park and Recreation, Resolution 12-5. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept Resolution 2012-05.
Second the motion.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, gentlemen, as well, for your time here this evening. Item 5 is consider proposal for SWAT training. Mr. Gray.
Falls Township Police Department applied for the Community Grant Program, which is awarded by the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority for monies obtained from the casino in Ben Salem. The team was awarded $216,000 to purchase new equipment, a new canine dog, and training. They searched for a trainer that would be able to train all 40 members of the SWAT team. There was only one company found that was able to provide their needs. That company is Tier 1 SOF. The course put together will last 1 year. Tier 1 will send 2 certified trainers to the training facility 1 day each month and train the team. They will also put all aspects of the township emergency agencies through a day-long drill at the end of the year to test capabilities. The total cost of the contract would be $95,400. The board is asked to consider this item at this time. In addition, Lieutenant Hank Ward from the Falls Township Police Department is here for any questions.
Okay, Lieutenant Ward, thank you very much for coming out. And also want to thank you, I think we have already publicly, but it doesn't hurt to do it again. It was through your efforts that this grant came to Falls Township. You put in all the work and put everything together, and so we appreciate your work you did on that, you know, for us. Just give us, I guess, an idea. Obviously, I'm not asking you to go into details on the specific training, but you know, and what exactly? I mean, Mr. Gray went through it a little bit. What exactly are we looking at here, and how's it work?
Just so everybody understands, the Falls Township belongs to the Bucks County South SWAT team, which is comprised of Ben Salem Township, Bristol Township, and Falls Township. Years ago, we found it more economical for each township to combine our SWAT teams together instead of operating on our own, which is a big cost. We found since we've combined each other, whatever Falls doesn't have, Ben Salem has. Whatever Ben Salem doesn't have, Bristol has. So we're able to save money that way. The thing that we're lacking is training. We've been combined for about 5 years, but just for example, Ben Salem went to one school, Bristol went to another school, we went to another school. So while we worked out most of our tactics, we're still not on the same page. We're at the point now where we're starting to change members, we're getting younger, and we decided to look at a training program for all 3 teams so we'd all be on the same page. The company that we chose is hands down probably one of the best in the world. They're all comprised of current or recently retired military personnel from the highest levels of the military through their respective countries. The company is made up of Australian, British, and New Zealand SAS, Canadian Special Forces, and American Special Forces, along with German GS G9. What we found that is good about this is these guys were actually in the field. They're actually doing things where we're not learning from someone who's reading from a book or theory. These guys have actually done it. They've made a lot of mistakes on their own, and we're gaining invaluable knowledge from their mistakes. Also, this provider is also combined with our provider for our canine. So what we're able to do is cover all disciplines on our team. We don't have to have a trainer come in and teach us how to use our dog with our canine team. We don't have to have another trainer come in and teach us how to do medical equipment with our team. This company does it all, and we're just like a one-stop shop. The money may seem a little high at first, but we did a breakdown, and basically what it would cost, we have roughly 40 members of the SWAT team between all three teams, and it would cost about $198 per day per man, which is below the industry norm. Right now, you're looking at $275 a day, so we're getting a greatly reduced price just because we're reaching out for a year-long contract, and they're willing to do that.
Okay. All right, thank you for the explanation. We'll have comments or questions from board members. Mr. Galloway?
No, not much. I just looked at the preliminary quotes, the paper you gave that broke down all the different training activities, and it's just quite impressive, and good luck.
Thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the actual cost, we have the grant, but there's an additional actual cost to the township, correct?
No.
Or no?
No, there's no extra additional cost to township. This is just covering the training. It's not covering the salaries of our operators. The township is covering the salaries. This is just to pay the trainer.
Okay. This does not include the dog either, is that correct?
No, the dog is separate. That is also covered under the grant, but that is another aspect of the grant. This entire program will be paid by monies from the grant.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No, no questions or comments.
Mr. Rocco?
No questions.
Okay, any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay, so we're looking to approve the proposal for SWAT training in the amount of $95,400 for Tier 1 SOF for the Falls Township SWAT team. Is there a motion to that effect?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Thank you. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it,
Thank you, sir.
Lieutenant. Okay, public comment portion of the agenda. We have one name, Guido Mariani.
Good evening, and I have some great news for everybody. Should make everybody happy. On December 20th, 11, Governor Tom Corbett signed into law the Adam Walsh Bill. It's also known in Pennsylvania as Senate Bill 1183. Now, this bill will take effect 60 days from 12/20, which is normal for Pennsylvania. The bill closes loopholes in Pennsylvania's current Megan law. What we had to give up, it's going to close it up. It's going to require sex offenders to register their home, their school, their work addresses, DNA samples, palm prints, fingerprints, passport, expanded vehicle information, and so on. It sounds something like the draft that I had sent to you, Mr. Chairman. Now, the other change is that juvenile offenders convicted of serious sex offenders or offenses are going to be included, and they're going to be required to provide the same kind of information. What the bill does, it brings Pennsylvania into compliance with the federal Adams-Walsh Act, and it coordinates all the states in monitoring and tracking these sex offenders through a centralized internet database. Now, it broadens Pennsylvania law, and it expands Megan's law, making our laws in this state a lot tougher. What I hope that this law will do is going to spare a lot of families a lot of the pain and a lot of the grief that these sex offenders have caused so many of our families. And I hope that this new law will transfer that same pain and that same grief to all these sex offenders and, quite frankly, organizations like the Anti-Christian Legal Union who go around defending these people and excuse their kind of behavior. Now, sex offenders are extremely dangerous people because they have a higher recidivism rate than any type of offender. And so, to everyone who cared enough to contact their legislators, I want to thank you and make sure that your township enforces this law. If they don't, pick up the phone, call the Attorney General. Your township will enforce this law. Now, for those of you who didn't do anything, then at the very least, thank those people who did, because they just made everyone in this township and in this state a lot safer. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's good news.
Yeah, thank you very much. If that's the only name on the list, I didn't know if there's anybody else. Mr. Kinney, wondered how you stayed off the list.
Couldn't bear the strain.
Good evening, Roland Kenny, Falls Township. I just want to say to you, all 5 years, I got a lot of talking to around the townships. Which I eat in an awful lot of townships, and they see this for some reason. They thought with 5 Democrats on there might be a problem. I can see none right now. So keep up the good work, gentlemen. Good night. I couldn't keep quiet.
Thank you. What's wrong with that? Any other comments or questions? See no hands. Okay. Yeah, right. All right. Okay. Next item on our agenda: the minutes from December 6th, 2011. 3 of the current members of the board were on the board at that time. And so I'll ask, I guess, those 3 members what their thoughts were, comments or questions regarding the minutes as presented. Mr. Snipes?
No comments.
Mr. Dents?
None.
And I have none. Mr. Rocco and Mr. Galloway could vote on the minutes. Essentially, with the minutes, what you're doing is just certifying that they represent what happened at the meeting. Typically, I guess the people would abstain if they weren't at the meeting. Although I know in the past we've had issues where someone who wasn't at a meeting just watched a tape of the meeting, then reviewed the minutes, verified that the minutes matched what happened on the tape, and then you could vote on it. So, but it's up to board members and how they vote this evening. Comments or questions regarding the minutes from anybody? Okay, I'll imagine there's any public comment needed, right? Okay, or is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay.
Excellent minutes once again, Mrs. Pullen.
There you go.
Thank you.
The streak continues. Okay, engineer's report is dated January 12th. It is the December 2011 engineering report. Mr. Sullivan, any highlights here?
Just a couple things, Mr. Chairman. The 2011 road program is moving along with utility work. There's storm sewer being installed on Alden Avenue, Winding Way, and the next road to be worked on will be Vernon Road. There's been some issues with sinkholes, and we have some kind of a water problem over there we need to investigate immediately. We're not sure if it's a water leak or if there's some kind of underground groundwater seeping into our storm pipes. We had a pre-construction meeting for the Quaker Penn Park Babe Ruth baseball field, and that project will be started before the end of this week. So that's going to get started right away, and they have about 4 months to complete that project. That's about all I have at this time.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members for Mr. Sullivan? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
No questions, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No questions.
Okay. And Mr. Rocco?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Okay. And I have none either. All right. So I know there has been an issue with the senior center. I know there was a pre-construction meeting last week with the contractor. We are encountering some difficulties with the community development block grant people, who seem to be pretty set on causing problems at any step they can with this project. And hopefully they will start doing their jobs and get out of the way so that we can get this thing built for the people that need it. So, but I appreciate the work you're putting in there, Mr. Sullivan. I know you're frustrated like I am. All right, is there a motion to accept the, what was any public comment needed to mention? Motion to accept the December engineering report dated January 12th, 2012.
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the bill list. Here it is. Bill list for this month in the amount of $1,600,047.86. Of that, about a little less than $1 million is for health insurance and salaries. And obviously, there are projects like the street lights on New Falls and Tyburn Road, as well as the road program, which, as Mr. Sullivan said, is ongoing. Comments or questions regarding the bill list? Mr. Galloway?
No questions.
Mr. Snipes?
None, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Rocco?
I have none.
Okay. Comments or questions from the public? Seeing none. Is there a motion to pay the bills, $1,600,047.86?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
Okay. Executive session. We don't have a need for an executive session this evening. Right. So manager comment. Mr. Gray, you're up.
Yes, just a few items tonight. First item, the township received a letter from Mr. Chris Schubert, dated today, January 17th, regarding the conditional use application for the new singular wireless PCS, doing business as AT&T Wireless, located at 207 Austin Drive, requesting an extension of time until February 7th, 2012. The board is asked to consider this extension.
Okay. So we're granting them an extension for another month or so, I guess, or a couple of weeks, for this conditional use hearing. This is one of the firms we're going to be hearing. Is it the first meeting in February? We're hearing these two? Okay. So there's two singular wireless, I guess, co-locations. Is that what they are? Or they?
Yes, they're co-location.
All right, they're co-locations on existing towers. All right, so we're looking at those two for our first meeting in February, so we need to grant an extension. Is there a motion to grant the extension to February 7th, 2012?
I move to grant the extension.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Township received the second letter from Mr. Chris Schubert, also today, regarding the conditional use application for the new singular wireless PCS, also doing business as AT&T Wireless, located at 8900 Old Route 13, requesting an extension on this project also until February 7th, 2012.
Okay.
I was asked to consider this extension.
All right. Is there a motion to grant the extension?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The township received a letter from Mr. Sullivan from T&M Associates dated January 9th regarding the Oxford Valley Shopping Center expiration of the maintenance bond period. The funds held for this project as financial security for the maintenance period may be released. The cash amount being recommended for release at this time is $23,087.74. The board is asked to consider this cash escrow release.
Okay. Right. Just any comments or questions from board members? It's pretty standard. The project is largely complete. Is there a motion to grant the escrow release $23,087.74?
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
The township received a letter from Thomas Anderson dated January 13th regarding the 2012 consulting services for the police pension fund. Anderson and Associates are proposing a fee of $4,800 for the year 2012. to consult for the pension fund. This is an increase of $300 over the prior year. Anderson and Associates have been the consultant for the pension plan since as far back as at least 1999. So the board is asked to consider this consulting fee for $4,800.
Okay, and then the letter also states that while they're increasing the rate $300 for this year, they're committed to keep that rate the same for the next 2 years after this year. So it is an increase, but it's not an increase that will lead to another increase next year, another increase next year. So comments or questions from board members regarding the letter from Thomas J. Anderson? Mr. Galloway?
Mr. Gray, it's been some time since they've had an increase.
Oh, yeah, the $4,500 that was charged last year, that amount was in place since, I believe, 2002, 2003.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes. Mr. Ray, could you outline what their consulting services cover?
Yes, they review the, when a police officer retires, the pension calculation that was determined, they review that. They review our MMOs that are done on an annual basis for both police pension and the non-uniform pension funds. They also review our Act 205. They review our AG 385 that is sent to the state every year. There's various other minor reports that they review as well, actuarial studies, anything that deals with the pension they review.
And are we required to have a consultant to review things?
We don't have to, but it's in our best interest considering the intricacies of all
It's
of our
technical and
pensions.
complicated.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Dents?
No, no questions.
Mr. Rocco?
No.
Okay, I don't have any public comment. I just see no hands. All right, then, is there a motion to retain Thomas J. Anderson Associates as the pension consultant for the amount of $4,800?
So moved.
I'll second it.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Galloway?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Rocco?
Yes.
That's all I have. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Okay, up to looking at board comment. We'll try to remember. I can remember who I started with last time. Mr. Did I? We'll go this way this time. All right, Mr. Rocco, you want to start us off?
I just want to thank my fellow board members for a good meeting. I'm looking forward to getting things done. So, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
I agree. It was a nice, quiet meeting. Everything went very smooth.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes. Welcome to Mr. Rocco and Mr. Galloway. Good to be working with you. And no other comment, Mr. Chairman.
Wow.
Our ratings are just dropping right through the floor. This is bad. This is bad. We got to have a jump the shark episode or something just to get us back on track.
I think we should test the tasers out on Pete Gray. I think
clowns. There you go. See, that's not a bad idea. I think Sandy Gray actually volunteered to do that. I'm not sure. Mr. Galloway.
Well, I'd just like to tell Mr. Rocco that this is 2 down and about 194 to go.
Who's counting, right?
Yes.
I want to thank, obviously, all board members for the effort they put in, and obviously the staff, and again, with the fee schedule, a lot of work went into that. The only comment I had was interesting noticing yesterday, sort of driving around the township, that saw a lot of trash cans still out that hadn't come around to be collected yet. And I saw a lot of, and it was in my neighborhood, so I know it wasn't recycling day, but a lot of people with cardboard boxes out. And just to kind of remind people, and I know it's new, it's tough to get used to, but in terms of recycling, the recycling has changed, and you can add a whole lot more in that recycling can than you used to be able to add, including all kinds of cardboard. And it is something that is not just sort of, greener planet, but it's also that the township does get, grant money based on the amount of recycling that is produced by the residents. And so we are helping ourselves out by doing that. And I've noticed just since I've been doing it, October 1st, I think it changed over to this kind of new recycling, single stream, just throw everything in a can, don't bother separating it, don't have to bag it, just throw it in there. I've been putting out, I used to put out, roughly 2 cans of trash and 1, the small can for recycling. I'm putting out 2 cans for recycling, and usually 1 can of trash that oftentimes isn't even filled. Cereal boxes, milk cartons, even the paper orange juice cartons and all kinds of stuff, especially at Christmas time, all the boxes and stuff that came and everything. yeah, I think on the website has a pretty comprehensive list, I think, of the things you can throw in there. So take a look. I mean, it's, you'd be surprised. You start really sorting that stuff out, and you can, it's interesting to see the real drastic difference. All kinds of plastic. It used to be certain kinds of plastic, and I think a lot of people just, if it wasn't a plastic, water bottle, soda bottle, or something, they just threw it in regular trash because they thought they couldn't be recycled. Now it's everything. So just something to think about as we're going through. I'm not sure if, I'm hoping that I'm not jinxing us. I'm not sure if we're going to get hammered with a lot of snow at some point.
Why'd you say it?
But it's interesting to take a look at just where we were last year in terms of what we were spending in terms of salt and plowing and every overtime, and I'm sure some of the public works guys were sort of doing a snow dance somewhere, trying to get some money to pay off some Christmas presents or something, get some extra cash. But it's and next week's supposed to be on the 50s, I think, all next week. So it's yeah, no problem. No problem, Mr.
Yeah, the
Dell.
guys that plow
That's
too,
good for you, Mr. Dell. You'll be cutting grass in February. So with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.